from Nebraska, please welcome Pippa White.
So what I have for you is history. It's some World War II history. It's home front history. It's also history from the state that I live in, which is Nebraska, and it's the history of a small town, which I don't live in, called North Platt. But during World War II, North Platt made itself pretty famous. So I'm going to tell you about the North Platt Canteen, one of the finest home front efforts this country's ever seen. It's a story of generosity completely off the charts, a story of ordinary people with extraordinary hearts. It all began in December of '41. They'd heard that a troop train was going to run right through North Platt at 11 a.m., full of Nebraska boys, National Guard men. So townsfolk got excited, saying, maybe we'll see our son, my husband, my brother. Oh, won't this be fun? So they all brought Christmas gifts and fruit baskets galore, and about 500 waited for that train or more. But when the train came through, it was Kansas guys, not from Nebraska, no family ties. But townsfolk thought, well, heck, they're still our boys, so they gave them the gifts and the food to enjoy. And one young lady was really impressed, not just with the generosity, but the appreciation expressed. So when Ray Wilson got home, she thought a bit, and then she wrote a letter to the editor with paper and pen saying, we need to do this again and again. We need to open a canteen to support our men. 8 days later, on Christmas Day, the canteen opened, come what may. Volunteers numbered 5 when the troop train came in on a cold winter night at 11 p.m. Those boys were so surprised. We just walked right up to the train with baskets of apples and candy, passed them through the windows, thanked them for what they were doing for us, told them we were thinking of them, wished them good luck, Merry Christmas, and sent them on their way. That was the beginning. And once it had begun, well, then word spread all over Nebraska, or so it said. Clubs, organizations, everyone wanted in. Some gave time, some gave money, and the wheels began to spin. You would never believe the generosity of that town, of that state. I mean, it was wartime, and things were quickly rationed, but people would save their ration stamps to give to the canteen. Children went without birthday cakes so that the sugar could go into a cake for a soldier. Gas ration cards were pooled so that ladies driving 4 hours from somewhere else in Nebraska could get to the canteen on their volunteer day. Farmers gave produce to the canteen, which otherwise they probably would have sold. Oh, and one young man, Gene Slattery, auctioned off his shirt every Saturday morning at the local livestock sale barn. That and a few odd jobs, and that kid made $2,000 to give to the canteen. Well, then it was official, with a sign on the wall, the North Platt Canteen, welcome to all. There were tables and tables and tables of food, a magazine rack, a piano, and coffee fresh brewed. Now, if you're beginning to think, oh, how sweet, some women's clubs gave gum, candy, treats. If you're inclined to think, well, how small town quaint, just listen to the stats, my friends, and prepare not to faint. Troop trains quickly numbered 24 a day, for a total of about 1,000 soldiers, give or take, okay? North Platt volunteers met every single train, in blizzards, in heat waves, in pounding, thundering rain. Sometimes a soldier would ask us, how much do I owe you? And we just loved replying, you don't owe us anything. We had stacks of playing cards for them, magazines. Sometimes a soldier would want to write a quick note home. We'd be there with the paper, the pen, the envelope, the stamp, and a promise that it was in the mail that day. Others needed a seam sewed up or a button sewed on. There was someone to do that. Occasionally you'd hear, you remind me of my mother. That soldier would get a hug and a kiss. It wasn't long before those trains had hospital cars. And of course, those boys couldn't come into the canteen. So we got right on the train with a big selection of everything we had for them. Cups. No paper cups back then. That meant if a soldier was halfway through a beverage when his train was leaving, we'd let him get on the train. The cup and saucer was picked up at the next station, sent back, washed, put out for the next group. We never lost a cup. At first, we started working out of one of the local hotels, but that soon became too much. So we approached Union Pacific, and they said, sure. And they gave us their whole depot dining room for the canteen. The goal was to make them feel welcome, to let them know the country cared, to say, we're rooting for you, all of us, everywhere. So everyone had a part to play. Everyone found a role. Some were young, some were old, but they all shared that same goal. With all those boys at our depot day after day, we knew that some of them had to be having a birthday. So we always had birthday cakes at the canteen. Oh, we had dozens of other cakes too, but the birthday boys, they got a whole cake just for themselves. Well, I make a good angel food cake, and I think they're good for a birthday because they're high, you know, and festive. But they take a lot of eggs, or egg whites, and eggs were strictly rationed. Well, a cousin of mine, her husband worked for a turkey hatchery, and he said, why don't you consider using turkey eggs? Because there were always some they couldn't use. Well, I don't know if you've ever seen a turkey egg, but they're big, and the whites are a little tough, but they would do for a cake. Took me 30 minutes per cake to whip up those egg whites. And I was making, 7, 8 cakes a week. I made hundreds of cakes during the war. Eventually, my husband got me an electric mixer, and did that ever make a difference? I just used a simple milk and sugar icing, and I used sprinkles in red or blue to say, happy birthday. But we got thank you notes from all over the world. We did, saying thank you for the birthday cake. And sometimes they said, the angel food was just delicious, and I knew that was me. I couldn't do much for the war effort, but I could bake a cake. I was a teenager during the war years, and I have to tell you, having all those handsome soldiers at our depot was a real thrill. I used to dress up on my volunteer day. I'd go out onto the platform, look down the tracks, see that train coming, and my heart would skip a beat. We girls just did what the ladies told us to, walked around with baskets of sandwiches or magazines, but off every train, off every single train, some soldier went straight to the piano. So there was always music in the canteen, and sometimes dancing, but only jitterbug, no slow dancing. We didn't want them homesick for their sweethearts. It was bedlam in there, and very exciting. Sometimes we had to shoo one group out because another train was coming down the tracks. But when I say it was exciting, of course it was bittersweet, knowing what they were going to, knowing... I used to pray for those boys. Some of them were only a couple of years older than I was. 10 minutes, maybe 15. That's all the time they had to spend at the canteen. Hundreds of eager lads, eager for fun, friendship, home cooking, to wink at a girl and say, hey, good looking. 10 minutes, maybe 15, but never any more. But that's all it took to become soldier lore. Deep in the trenches, thousands of miles away, soldiers would think about their North Platt stay. 50 years later, veterans would cry when asked about the canteen in days gone by. Can't tell you what that meant to us, what those people did for men they didn't even know, or should I say, for kids. April 1946, the canteen sign came down. North Platt was not a canteen anymore, just a small Nebraska town. But bear with me, folks, I beg you, for one last amazing stat. They served 6 million men. This country can be proud of that.